It looks good.
Great.
I'll trust it. Famous first words.
Yeah, last words. No, wait. What's there to trust?
No. It's showing up now. It's when he's getting quiet. I'm not getting bounce, but I'm getting visual.
So as long as we play the track visually, people know he was speaking. I'm just kidding.
That's exactly right. So we're gonna send them the PKF file.
Great, perfect.
So, Katie, you see how he's on the mic like that? I really love that distance. If I can get you kind of on that mic as well.
So he's closer to me? I can't see because his beard and the mic are
He's
close.
much closer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't know that. If I had known.
Well, because when you do the video stuff, it doesn't look good. But
I see.
For sound
Right.
stuff, I really want that in your face like that. And you
For video stuff, even more, actually. A bigger mic.
Hashtag
what color?
Hashtag what?
Hashtag lean in.
Yeah, exactly. What color? Purple.
All right. Can't offend anyone that way.
Yeah. And yet everyone.
Then you're doing your job right.
Sorry.
All right, we're rolling on this side. Have fun.
Okay, thank you. On today's episode, we talk to guest Freddie DeBoer, an academic and writer whose work you can find in places like the LA Times, the Washington Post, the Guardian, and at FwdRad.io. FreddieDeBoer. That's also his Twitter handle, and on Medium. And I have a special guest co-host. Gabe couldn't make it this week, so I have a good friend in real life and good friend of the show, and smart guy, politically interested guy, Josh. Please go to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show to support us and get great extra bonus content. And some bonus content you can look forward to is our interview with historian Matt Karp and an extra interview I did with Tom Sexton of the Trillbilly Workers Party podcast, where we go deep on J.D. Vance. Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. You can hear the Katie Halper Show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on WBAI. That's 99.5 FM or WBAI.org on the internets. And of course, please find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and rate and review us on iTunes. You just go in there, you write a nice review, you give us some stars, give us 5 stars. If you could, you give us 6, but you can't. So just give us 5. And please support us on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com, that's Patreon, patreon.com. By the way, let me introduce who's here in the room with me right now. Gabe isn't here. A special friend of mine named Josh.
Hi, Katie. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being on, Josh.
Hey, no problem.
Hey, you. You know what, Josh?
Whoa.
We have fun.
You know what? At the end of the day,
we have fun.
We have fun.
We have fun.
We
Good
do.
times.
Mm.
And really excited to tell you guys that we're going to be doing a live taping. It's a special benefit for WBAI because WBAI, nonprofit, free speech radio. What's a better way to celebrate WBAI? Well, I can't think of one better than through a free speech festival. And by festival, I mean a very condensed, one-night-only event that is going to be so packing such a free speech punch that it's like a festival. Basically, I'm talking about a specific night on June 14th, Wednesday, June 14th, where we will be doing a live taping of the Katie Halper Show, and we'll be looking at the question of free speech with special guests, Freddie DeBoer, an academic and writer and really controversial dude. Not a minute goes by where there's not at least someone mad at Freddie DeBoer. Just impossible. Someone's always mad at him. And Freddie's writing can be found in the New York Times, LA Times, Harper's, The Guardian, Washington Post. So Freddie DeBoer, Angela Nagel is the other guest. Angela Nagel is a writer. Her book called Kill All Normies about the online culture wars and the alt-right actually will still not be out yet. So you're definitely going to want to come to this event. Angela Nagel, again, writes for places like Jacobin, The Baffler, Current Affairs. Also, she's Irish. She's not usually here.
Wow.
So don't worry, we're going to have live simultaneous translation at the event of her Irish accent. And you can hear her on our past episode. She's great. Anyway, it's on June 14th at the Brooklyn Commons at 388 Atlantic Avenue. That's June 14th at 7 p.m., Brooklyn Commons, 388 Atlantic Avenue. And it is a benefit for WBAI, which is free radio, free speech radio. It's been that since the beginning, Pacifica. And so we are asking you to donate to the station to keep supporting great things like the Katie Halper Show, the Underground Railroad with Jay Smooth, which is New York City's oldest hip-hop radio show. Also, Amy Goodman, you may have heard of her. Her show, Democracy Now! Is on WBI.
A little show you may have heard
A
of.
little show you may have heard of. She basically ripped off the Katie Halper show. She's told people that I know that Democracy Now! Is actually her version of my show. The original title of my show was Democracy Later. Just kidding. I do sometimes do a Democracy Later segment where I just read their headlines and put a little flourish on it. And to get tickets to that show, you go to Facebook.com/The Katie Halper Show, Facebook.com/The Katie Halper Show, and you're going to see pinned to the top of the page an event. And if you click on that event, it will take you to where you can donate to the station. And in exchange for said donation, your thank you gift is a ticket. It's $10. Nice. $10 for not only a great live taping, supporting a great cause, but then we have a little bit of stand-up and storytelling afterwards because the theme is free speech. So we're really going to be pushing limits, really challenging people's comfort zones around free speech through the form of stand-up and storytelling. And then, as if that's not enough, go to that link, and then it'll take you to the page on. It's also, you can go. This is like, you want to, unless you were unconvinced that WBI need more money, go to give2wbi.org. Then in the search bar, put in the name Katie, Katie, or Marie, Marie. And no, put both of those in. This is like trying to find the Holy Grail.
Guys, help WBAI.
Help WBI help itself. Yeah. Afford someone who knows how to update a website. You will find a description of an event that has very little to do with what I just said. It's something like story time and has a kind of like pre-K letters situation going on. It looks like it's advertising after school for toddlers, but that's how you get them. It's edgy.
Look, day one of advertising school, the first thing they tell you, everyone wants to be a child again. That's the key. Look, if you can hook into that, you can
go younger.
Oh, yeah.
We go younger. Oh, that sounds really gross, especially when we're dealing with Trump. Oh, yeah. I didn't mean to do that. Anyway, so go to give2wbi.org, then search for the name Marie, Marie, Katie, Katie. You'll see me, I will be mentioned. This woman, Marie Faustin, very funny lady who will be co-hosting the storytelling part will be mentioned. We're going to really get into it on free speech.
Wow.
And the issue of Richard Spencer and the issue of people like Milo, because there's not a lot of consensus. There's less consensus than one would think around free speech on the left. And some people think that you should allow people to speak wherever. You should give them a platform. Then there are people who are opposed to platforming, which is providing people with a platform for saying whatever they want. So we're going to be tackling this interesting, fascinating, treacherous issue. We're going to talk a little bit about violence. We're also going to be talking about something that happened to me and Angela and happens to Freddie all the time, and he writes about, but I haven't really touched. I haven't gone there, which is kind of left-on-left peer pressuring and left-on-left shaming.
Oh, LOL.
Oh, my God. Wait.
LOL. Yeah, left on left.
Oh, LOL. Yeah. LOLS. LOLs. Shaming.
Whoa.
LOLs. Whoa, we just did that. We unpacked
Book title,
it.
here.
Here, yes. I'm here for that book title. And what happens when there's so much and this is such a cliche thing to say. It's almost as cliche as being like, at the end of the day, like the extreme left and extreme right meet. It's like a horseshoe. It's so stupid. And so the whole thing of like, there's so many like firing. What's the expression?
Circular firing squad.
Circling firing squads on the left. It's like, yeah, but this really is something because these are people who we agree with each other on a lot of things, and there's such cachet in like crapping on each other as inauthentic or as it really annoys me.
Yeah, and well, it's interesting because I feel like so much of politics in the United States in 2017 has just become about the performance, which is not to say there's not value to performative politics. There absolutely is, but there is a certain
Hamilton. Perfect.
You know what?
Performance, politics.
Thank you.
It has it all.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Oh, man. If it weren't for Hamilton, Trump would have won 40 states.
Exactly.
No, but it's interesting, like how much of politics seems to just be synonymous or just conflated with performance.
Somewhat, sorry.
How much of politics just seems to be conflated with a kind of performance for folks.
Right.
Where like it's just, I don't know, I think a lot, I'm not saying all of it.
Josh, how dare you say all politics is performance? I got you on record.
Yeah.
Rolled the tape.
Yeah, sorry.
So
really getting into it today.
Really throwing caution to the wind, taking off the masks, taking off the gloves. I always mess up those idioms. For someone as educated as I am, and I don't mean that I just happen to go through college. I graduated from college. And born and raised speaking English, and I write. It's funny how much I get those things wrong.
Taking off the mask versus taking off the gloves.
Yes. And I get them wrong. What if this was like, oh my God, you don't know? I get them so wrong, Josh. Like, that's like my thing.
How have we not talked about
How
this?
are we not talking about this? Wait, you're like, how do you not? This is like such a part of my identity. It's kind of problematic that it's erasure, basically.
I didn't want to have to say it, so thank you for saying it on my behalf.
You're welcome.
Wait, is there ever a circumstance where someone's confused because you meant to say take off the gloves or you said mask or vice versa?
No, but it sounds weird. Like, what did I say the other day? Or I'll just be like, he got mixed into or something. I couldn't remember it. And so it's just little tweak things. It has like a little ESL air to it. It's probably my fetish for like when people think I'm someone on the street the other day, by the way, a Jewish woman was like, "Are you Jewish?" And I was like,
apropos of nothing.
Apropos of shalom. She's like, "Are you Jewish?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You are?" And I was so happy.
Why were you happy about this?
Because I like when people think I'm. It's not because I'm an anti-Semite or self-loathing Jew. It's like I just like to. My assumption is that she was like, "What? That feisty Latina woman is Jewish?" But she probably didn't. She just probably thought like I was whatever. But I'm one of those Jews who really gets excited when mistaken for Latina.
Okay.
Now you may not relate to that because I assume that doesn't happen to you very much.
Sure. Speaking as the understudy for Tevya in 5 to 6.
Yeah. So you guys don't know what Josh looks like. He's literally davening in the corner.
Yeah.
He won't face me. He will never touch me. Like I can't even touch his hand.
Sorry.
What else does he do? Yarmulke, head to toe yarmulke. You don't know this, but really religious Jews do a burqa yarmulke.
Yeah, it's actually more like a hazmat suit made of the same material as a yarmulke.
It's a yazmat suit.
Yeah. Oh my God.
A kippah hazmat suit.
Yazmat queen.
Yazmat queen.
I've been saying
really
it for years.
That's really good. Yazmat. Anyway, so donate $10 and you got a night full of free speech, adventure, intrigue. You're going to laugh, you're going to cry, roller coaster of emotions.
Romance.
Romance. So, girlmance. So, we're going to be calling Freddie soon, but what do you, and then maybe we can do the Hurwitz thing.
You mean the Duritz?
Duritz, sorry. Oh my God. Okay, so you want to go to the Democracy Now? I was just saying we do something called Democracy Now. We also do something called, as of now, Democracy Durwitz. Durwitz Now. How about that?
Duritzocracy?
Yeah, Duritzocracy Now. Josh has really good talents. He has good talents. No, he's really good at doing voiceover voice. I call it VOV, VOV. I call Josh my best VOV friend.
Look, that's what they say in the biz.
And he also does an amazing impersonation of Adam Duritz.
Adam Duritz of Counting Crows.
Yellow-haired girl, Mr. Jones strikes up a conversation with a black-haired flamenco.
The best impressionability to have.
It opens a lot of doors.
Oh my God. When people know that you can sing a song the way Adam Duritz of Counting Crows would, so many doors just open.
Well,
they gift stuff to you.
I try to, I'm someone who really likes to go to crowded restaurants you need to make reservations at.
Yeah.
It's my thing. And sometimes it's hard to get a reservation. You call, you pretend you're Adam Duritz.
I can't keep on eating at Rouse. They keep on
feeding you.
Yeah.
They're like, they don't even notice that the man who just walked in is a human-sized yarmulke. They ignore the Yazmat entirely.
Oh my God.
It's just the voice is so powerful.
At 11 Madison Park, they have a booth that's just shaped for a Yazmat suit at this point. It's just shaped for a Yazmat suit. They're just assuming.
It's a Hamantash. It's ironically it happens to be a Hamantash in shape. So we thought that we would, we love Democracy Now. We think they do really important stories. So we thought a great way to do this would be just read a couple headlines as Adam Duritz of the Counting Crows would.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you see the headlines? Or you want me to?
I do see the headlines. So just, so this is just for a moment of context. So
sure.
I've done this in the past where if I know how a song goes, I can sing it the exact way that Adam Duritz would sing it. I kind of feel like if it's all right, if we can get one example song first, because I feel like if I go straight into headlines, it will be a little bit more inscrutable.
Do whatever song you want.
Any song comes to mind?
You can also sing it to one of his songs, whatever you want, though.
All right, so
it's
just
totally up to you.
Sure. So just to give like an example, so like most basic example, Happy Birthday. So, like, the way Adam Duritz accounting goes, sing happy birthday is along the lines of, like, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Katie. Happy birthday to you. Anyway, so
Very good.
Yeah, so so
You're right. I realized we didn't try that. This is different. This is not song, but let's see how it goes. If it doesn't work, you can always set it. What you could do is you could do it as if it were Mr. Jones.
Sure.
Drum face, turn wars and clans. Just an idea. Whatever you want.
No, I appreciate it. All right, so top news on Democracy Now! At this moment.
Do you see the headlines?
Oh man, this is such a. I feel like this top headline is such a sad piece of news. I kind of don't want to.
But you need to Duritz up.
No, the problem with doing this, democracynow.org at this moment is like the top headlines are: the Trump campaign rhetoric empowered the white extremists who killed 2 bystanders on Portland train.
No, sorry, I want to ask you to do that. Look, headlines. Sorry, headlines, not stories.
Okay. Yeah. Pardon me. I
my God, imagine I'm like, I just want you to read line by line the description of what happened when those 2 men were stabbed to death on the Portland train.
Yeah.
Not funny.
Can you sing like Adam Duritz, Yale historian Timothy Snyder, talking about parallels between the Holocaust and the U.S.'s slide into authoritarianism?
Or is that too cliched? Have you already heard that?
Yeah, all day, every day. Okay. Trump faced stern words and clenched hands. European allies, Jared Kushner under fire for meeting with a Russian banker in December.
Really
keep going.
Keep doing it.
Well, some of these are pretty. I'm going to skip some of the more catastrophic ones.
Let's do 5. Let's just say 5.
All right. Spain, taxi workers launched nationwide strike to protest Uber.
2 more, and then we're going to call Freddie.
Oh man, all the headlines are really so.
I mean, Sri Lanka, that's kind of upbeat. Okay, Brazil, that's good. Brazil's good, and
okay.
Brazil's good news. Colombia's good news. Palestinian, kind of good news. I mean, it takes a lot to say that a hunger strike, anything involving Palestinians and hunger strikes and Israel is good, but there's some good news there. That's
so much of my, like, when I go to like positive morning news sites, that's so much of what I see is
feel good stories.
Yeah, deeply feel good.
Yeah.
All right, 2 more. Brazil, thousands of protesters demand the ouster of President Temer.
Nice.
And then Colombia. Colombia, a government reaches deal with Chaco residents after May 1st massive civic strike.
That's awesome.
Getting a little Condor Oberst towards the end there, but yeah.
Who?
Condor Oberst, frontman of Bright Eyes. His voice. Oh, well, I don't know if it's a band that you can immediately bring up a song and assume the other person will know it, but he
so it's like someone who's tried to do that and failed.
No, I mean, I can name songs there. It's like Halai. Yeah, no. I mean, I think, but his vocal quality is a little bit more quavering than Adam Duritz.
Got it. Well,
it's
more
declarative.
Great. You know he's bluish, I think, Adam Duritz, black and Jewish? I got to check on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay, can I tell you, I want to say, sincerely, I do... as much as I make fun of Mr. Never mind. No, I was going to say, like, I did enjoy his music at that time.
Mr. Jones
and I appreciate what he does. That being said, it is funny to me.
It is, yeah.
Sure.
We called the Fredster.
Hello.
Hey, Freddie. How's it going?
Good. How's it going?
Good, thanks. You're here with me and my friend Josh.
Hello.
Hey.
So happy to be talking to Freddie DeBoer. Such a smart guy. Just really smart. I feel like that's almost all I have to say about him. But there's so much more. He's an academic. He's a writer. He's a contrarian. Is that? I don't want to say that because that makes it seem like you're kind of intentionally doing that. He's very principle-driven. I'm going to spend the entire show just describing Freddie, not have him talk at all. And he writes a lot about education, a lot about politics. He thinks a lot about politics. And you can find his writing his Anova blog, which is on education. And you can also find him at Medium. And Freddie DeBoer, welcome back to the Katie Halper Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming. Freddie, by the way, and I broke the ice before we ever met in real life. We broke the ice when I busted him almost identifying with the Democratic Party. And it was a wonderful moment.
Democrats only seem to really pay attention for the presidential elections.
Right.
But every year, the Republicans are tightening their grip on the state houses. And then what that does is when you have the state house, right, you control districting, which means that you can gerrymander and you can win the house. And so we're getting, Democrats are getting killed on the ground game.
Oh, I think I heard a little identification with the Democratic Party.
And so we're getting, Democrats are getting killed on the ground game.
It was funny. One of those moments where you can literally hear the person smiling. You can hear their voice smiling. Oh, I think I heard a little identification with the Democratic Party. We can
a little bit.
We can cut this out. We'll bleep this out.
Bleep that, please.
Yeah, the podcast. Yeah. It was more anti-Republican than pro-Democrat, so it's fine.
I used the wrong pronoun.
Yes. You see? Never let it be said that Freddie dismisses the significance of pronouns.
That's right.
That's right. You're an academic. You're a writer. You seem to have gone through, am I right, that you've kind of had have you gone through a shift? Yeah.
Well, I got a job. I mean, I'm at my office at Brooklyn College right now. And during the day, I will promote stuff on social media, but I don't write during my workday, which is from 8 to 4, every Monday through Friday. And so that has kind of changed my ways of engaging. And also, I'm trying to be, more professional about it, I guess is one way you could put it.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Right.
But yeah, no, really, I got a job, and I've been trying to make my engagement a little bit more focused, and I just don't have the same number of hours to write that I once did. So that's kind of changed how I'm engaging these days.
Okay, got it. And we want to talk to you about free speech, violence, maybe your piece on podcasting. How was that received? You wrote a piece called Podcast Thing. I didn't know this, Freddie, that apparently you write on this piece that occasionally you get people wanting me to be mad about stuff that I'm not. A year or two ago, for example, someone kept asking me to be mad about adult coloring books, but I honestly can't comprehend why I would care that some adults want to color. Or people who think I'll hate wine tastings or quinoa. Who cares? Don't get me wrong. I'm just about always mad online, but I'm not always mad about things that people think I would be mad about. First of all, what's the coloring book thing? Is it like fetishizing people of color or something? I don't even know what it is.
No, there was an adult coloring book fad a couple of years ago. They were very, very popular. In fact, for a period of time, they kind of saved print publishing.
Whoa.
And they were very popular, and some people saw them as being indicative of a new immaturity or an inability for adults to grow up. But I just didn't particularly care if people want to do coloring books, if adults want to do coloring books because they think it beats their stress or whatever, then good for them.
Yeah, I like the idea that where we live in a world in which the real problem is the proliferation of coloring books.
The coloring book industrial complex.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The people who assumed that I would have a take about something like that is that, there's a sense in which everything in contemporary political life, contemporary life, is politicized, in which even the most sort of mundane aspects of cultural minutiae are expected to carry all of this political baggage because we've suffused our lives with political engagement, right? For example, when you're online all the time on social media or on blogs or whatever, you have a tendency to begin to read everything in your life through a political lens.
Mm-hmm. Right. Especially when you're not actually engaged in politics in other ways, which kind of provides the contrast or the perspective, right? Like if you are doing labor organizing or housing organizing, then you kind of have a nice perspective on the other stuff. You're like, well, the adult coloring book thing, I see how it can be framed that way, but that doesn't compare really to fighting to raise the minimum wage. Like the fight for 15 or coloring books. One's more political than the other, yeah.
Right, but again, because the progressive political power is so curtailed right now because we have been losing in so many fronts, it's natural maybe not natural, but I think one of the consequences is that people are looking to culture more and more, right? Like progressive people control the cultural industry. They control the production of culture in Hollywood, and they also especially control the analysis of culture. And so it seems like, if we only control that, let's just grab our hand tighter and tighter and tighter, rather than trying to say, well, the impact of culture on actual day-to-day life is pretty limited.
Right. So let's just go big. What is to be done, Freddie?
I think what's to be done is we need to have a authentic left-wing mass movement in this country, and that's easier said than done, obviously. Part of the problem is that you've seen this famous narrowing of what's available in the political space. I know it drives Democrats crazy to say that Democrats and Republicans are the same, and it's true, they're not the same. There are very meaningful and important differences between the Democratic and Republican Party. The Democrats are better and the Republicans are worse, and I'd never say otherwise. The problem is that the fact that they are different doesn't mean that either of them is an acceptable alternative. And particularly, this was coming in a lot of ways in the Democratic Party, but it was particularly the presidency of Bill Clinton. The differences between the two political parties were radically shrunk, and we were left without a meaningful left-wing alternative for people to get invested in. And people need to believe that a political platform is going to help build them a better life, and we don't have that right now. So what it's going to take is a lot of long, hard work to convince people that the left-wing way is correct, to expand the boundaries of what's possible in American politics, and to demonstrate to people that if you get on board with our program, we can gather mass power, mass democratic power, and make real change.
How much of this is, it's not to be too semantic-based or too kind of academic about it, but is part of this that the left really, something we call the left isn't actually the left? Like, do we need to start using the liberal left and the left?
Oh, yeah. I will often use the left to refer to the broad left of center, right, in this country, and then also more specifically like a left, like a radical left or a socialist left, the anti-capitalist left. Yeah, that's fair.
Let's just shift gears a little bit. There's been this kind of groupthink on the left, not like Democrats, around two issues lately, around free speech and around violence. And those are two things that you have important things to say that are kind of not on message for much of the left. I think there's like this weird fetishization on the part of the left that things like free speech are liberal values, not left values. And the idea that violence is not the way to win major gains is somehow like a polite society liberal idea.
Well, the left, to which I belong, the socialist left or the radical left, the left, a lot of its culture derives from the fact that we have been a party of losers for a very long time. The radical left has done nothing but lose in this country for my entire lifetime. That's just a statement of fact. We have Bernie Sanders, I think, while I would call him more of a social democrat than a socialist, he still is a fairly left-leaning guy, and he's our sort of our lodestar. He's a single senator from a small state who is unable to capture the presidential nomination, who doesn't command significant power in the legislative body. We don't really have a functioning left-wing movement. Our institutions are small. The growth in the Democratic Socialists of America is very encouraging, and I'm very happy about it. But perspective, there's about half as many national members of DSA as there are NRA members just in New York City. Okay.
Wait, say that again?
So there's a half as many members of the Democratic Socialists of America throughout the country as there are NRA members just in New York City.
In the city, not even the state. New York City.
New York City.
That's
okay.
Wow.
So, we are a small movement that does not control significant political power. And when you've lost as much as you've lost, you tend to develop a series of tics and a way of engaging with the world that's more about managing this perpetual disappointment emotionally and psychologically than it is about asking for how we can actually win. And so the obsession with political violence, for example, is something that seems very appealing when you keep losing in the Democratic plane, right? It sounds very romantic, and it sounds kind of hopeful if you have if you have sort of failed again. Well, now we're going to go into the streets and actually fight, right? Because that's enervating and it's and it's energizing, and it makes you feel like someone who's important, who's at an important moment. But any rational look at the current situation that we're in this country would tell us that the threat of left-wing political violence is laughable, right? Like that we simply do not control the kind of ability to project force that would make that even remotely likely to result in any kind of victory, for reasons that probably don't even have to go over.
Right.
But again, it seems like it's something that you can say, well, now I'm really doing something because I'm calling for a violent action. And the same thing is broadly true for this free speech debate, where it seems like there's this sort of, like we're in a position of power when we say that we're going to dictate terms about who gets to speak and when. But of course we probably won't, because the left lacks power in most contexts. We're not going to be the censors. We're going to be the censored. Outside of the university campus, we don't usually have the ability to sort of lay down who gets to speak and who doesn't.
You said that there are very few places that the left will be able to control free speech outside of academia. What is a space where we would lose at that? What's an example of that?
Where's a place where most people reside for 8 hours of the day?
Work.
The workplace. The workplace is a perfect example of a place where, I mean, do you hear like about no platforming campaigns within the average corporation?
Right,
Do
yeah.
you hear people organizing to sort of shut down certain points of view in the workplace? No,
Right.
of course not. We don't even have a conversation about that because the idea is so ridiculous. Because the idea is so far out there that we don't even contemplate it, right? There's way more people in the workplace than there are in college. Right? College is a very small portion of the American population. Most people work, and those who don't want to work mostly.
Right.
And so, we don't even have that conversation. In the places that again, because the left of center tends to control the cultural spaces, it can look like we have this kind of cultural hegemony that's going on. And yes, we can regulate, media, Twitter, and make sure people don't say dumb things, and we'll hound them if they do. Or we can take advantage of some of the peculiarities of contemporary colleges in order to shut down speech we don't like. But in the long run, in politics, in the Senate, people say things that are unwoke all the time, right? It just so happens that Republicans have a majority of the Senate, and even the Democrats who are in the Senate aren't exactly what I would call woke people. In the workplace, right? The workplace is an inherently conservative environment. In religious service, right, if you go out into America's religious places, some of them are very progressive, but by and large, they are conservative spaces. So no one's talking about no platforming conservative speakers. We're only giving our level of analysis to the places that we already control. So I think that these things are largely just a reaction to being powerless. I also think that they tend to come from the fact that we don't really have a good theoretical apparatus. I mean, the funny thing is, we have, this old school sort of interpretation of the left as being just a bunch of theorists who never take action. I actually think that we have insufficient theory on the left right now because we don't talk things through. There wasn't ever any time when there was some book that someone wrote where they say, here's the case against left-wing free speech support. Or there wasn't a time when we got together as an international and voted. It just sort of was this sort of weird cultural thing that happened. And the reason why is because some college student activists started agitating against free speech. And we said to ourselves, well, we're the kind of people to stand with college student activists, so we're just going to generally be on that side. But that's a terrible way to proceed if you want to be a serious political movement. We have to make intelligent decisions about what's likely to work and what's likely to spread our appeal to other people. But again, we don't have a functioning intellectual infrastructure, so we don't have the ability to sort through those things.
I think that there's like these really annoying buzz phrases and buzzwords like stop over intellectualizing or you're just talk or we don't have the privilege to just talk about things. So if you were designing, like if you got, let's say you got a grant to fix the political left, what would that look like? Like what would happen? Would there be people working on theory? Like I don't even know what this looks like.
We had a tradition of radical left-wing
Right.
organizing within the workers' movement for a very long time, right? It used to be the case that you could go down to the union hall and, well, most of the time the union hall members probably weren't engaged in abstract political discussions. They would sometimes. And you had your union paper and you had your radical papers that helped to sort of work through issues of doctrine. Now we have journals like Jacobin, right, or New Left Review or things. But the conversation is on Twitter where nobody reads, where you have extremely curtailed ability to actually communicate, where everyone is looking to make bad faith readings at all times, and where we're not trying to actually sort through differing sort of conflicting and difficult ideas. We're trying to find out who's good and who's bad.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a functioning intellectual culture that way. If we want to have a political movement that has the ability to answer hard questions, we have to actually allow people to disagree, and it may say things that might be controversial without becoming the subject of shunning campaigns. But unfortunately, again, we think that shaming makes us powerful, even though it doesn't.
Yeah, that's a really annoying thing, and I always hope that the left that likes to kind of differentiate itself for good reason from liberals. Like, I'm always wishing and hoping that they will pick that up. Like, that's not a good look, and that's one of the things that we find so annoying about liberals. But the left really does that.
Yeah,
it's kind of disappointing and hypocritical.
Well, we just had a year-long primary campaign that was supposedly pulling out all these differences between left and liberal. But since then, the socialist left, has only gotten more and more like liberals. I mean, that's the funny thing, is that after all these recrimination and all the anger about the primary campaign, the way that people are working, the people are engaging on the left now, just seems to me very similar to what progressive Democrats are doing.
What do you mean?
I mean that there's been an embrace of the politics of the personal. If you go on Twitter right now and you say something controversial, you'll get a bunch of people who identify with the radical socialist left who are really interested in engaging in shaming tactics, right? Anytime someone says something dumb on Twitter, there's now 1 million people with rose emojis in their usernames,
right,
sort of jumping into the pylon, right? But pylons and shamings are inherently not within the purview of radical politics, because radical politics are about structures, right? I mean, I am a Marxist, and as a Marxist, I believe that history is not driven by individual people. It's driven by broad social and economic conditions, by class. And so there's no point in engaging in a shaming campaign. It doesn't do anything, right? Betsy DeVos is a very terrible person, and I'd love to see her fail for personal reasons. But Betsy DeVos is a symptom of a underlying structural economic condition in this country. And so that's the sort of thing where, again, I think people just have not theorized appropriately. There's no pressure within the left right now to be someone who does the reading, and so you have all these people who self-identify as socialists who haven't read their Marx, who don't have a basic history of socialism in the United States and elsewhere in their sort of mental arsenal, and so they can't work through these issues. And I just find that to be a profound mistake.
Do you think that there is any context in which shame is a legitimately useful tactic?
I think that shame can be a useful tactic when it is derived from a meaningful and real sort of admiration and close personal relationship between people, where you feel someone does something to shame you, or let's just say to correct you instead, then you feel an intrinsic and sincere desire not to offend that person, and so you change your behavior. But shaming in the way that we usually think of it, which is that a lot of strangers lob insults at you until you acquiesce, to me just seems to prompt people who apologize out of obligation, right, and not to prompt any kind of sincere reevaluation of what's going on. I mean, look, these shaming campaigns aren't really about changing behavior, right? They're about making the people who are engaging in the shaming feel good. And sometimes I want to do that. Sometimes I have done that, taking part in that. But that doesn't mean that it's actually a meaningful or worthwhile endeavor.
Did you see, speaking of free speech, I'm sure you saw this story about there was a fatal stabbing of 2 men who were trying to protect 2 women who were being yelled racial epithets at on a Portland commuter train. And just reading from FwdRad.io, this article, as Portland reels from the fatal stabbing of 2 men who tried to stop another passenger from shouting Muslim slurs aboard a commuter train, the mayor is asking the feds to block 2 upcoming protests in public space. A, quote, Trump free speech rally, end quote, and a, quote, march against Sharia, end quote, the Washington Post reports. And so yeah, they're trying to. I guess they think that the way to respond to this is by shutting these things down. What's your response to that response?
Look, what is the political lesson of the last several years? Shutting bad ideas out of the public sphere does not hurt them, right? The alt-right did not rise from the New York Times op-ed page. The alt-right did not even come up from like National Review. The alt-right rose from the margins, right? It rose from 4chan. It arose from the darkest corners of Reddit, right? This idea that we shut people out of these mainstream spaces, whether physical or virtual, and that somehow hurts their message is not true. Milo Yiannopoulos has accumulated a huge number of followers outside of the spotlight. And the basic assumption about this is just wrong. It's empirically wrong to say that shutting people out of these spaces actually works to keep them from spreading their message. In the internet era, the digital era, it is absolutely impossible to stop a message from spreading to who you want it to spread to. Even if we thought it was a good idea, we can't actually do it, and we have to deal in reality.
And what about, I mean, what role do, I was listening to you on Dead Pundit Society, and you talked about how, you know, there's Richard Spencer, there's Milo, there's Richard Murray, but the real, Charles Murray? Yeah. But the real threat is, you know, or the real issue, the more important thing is that Jeff Sessions is, you know, the Attorney General, right? What significance, though, and what role do people like Milo play and Spencer play? And how much are they a reflection of something versus how much do they actually shape things? And it goes back to the question that, you know, as a you're saying as a Marxist, we believe in structural forces and not individuals, right? But even just going back to the Communist Manifesto, right? There's clearly that's Marxist shtick, right? It's not individuals. It's structural forces and it's workers, mass movements. But he did write the Communist Manifesto, right? He said, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. So there's the role of the individual is kind of, even in the most pro-structure manifesto ever, it's clearly written by one person who's using his power to try to foment a revolution that he claims is going to be inevitable anyway, right? So I guess how do we kind of look at the role of individuals, in be it someone like Karl Marx or be it someone like Richard Spencer?
The point is not to say that individuals don't matter, that they don't have any agency. I am opposed to Richard Spencer. I'm opposed to Milo Yiannopoulos. But it is important to actually recognize in whom power is actually vested in this country. I've said it before. Richard Spencer has less actual political power than, like, the postal czar of a major city, right? He has less power than the head of a school board in any sort of mid-sized suburban town. That's just like looking at his actual ability to materially change the world. Again, as I just said, I think that the way to oppose these guys is to oppose their ideas, because you cannot silence ideas in the digital era. Whatever ability we had to enforce actual censorship in the past is gone.
Yeah. So how do we oppose their ideas?
By articulating better ideas, right? By showing people that we're listening to them, that we hear their problems, and that we have the best solutions. We give people things and then we take credit, right? We give them Social Security and we say, here, we gave you money when you were old. We give them health care. We say, here, we gave you health care when you were sick. We give them protections for the environment. You say, now here's breathable air and clean water, right?
So when
you
give
people things and you take credit for them. You make a simple case that your platform provides better things for them than the alternative. That's how you win.
Wait, so you don't win by saying you need to check your white male privilege and think about why you even considered voting for Trump? That's not gonna turn people around?
I think that if we take a quick look at the world and we look at how often liberals have been saying that for the past 10 years, and then you see how much the world is filled with bigotry, you find that nothing changes, right? At this point, I would say that wokeness is an empirical failure.
Do you think anyone would actually push back and be like, actually, we haven't been privilege checking enough, and if we really made the case for it, maybe coal miners, while they were mining, would take some time out and kind of check their own privilege?
I just don't think that. I mean, I think that a lot of people who are super woke are just not even particularly invested in having a kind of a rational take on how to create change. I think that they find being asked to think about that kind of an imposition. So I'm not sure that anyone will even bother to sort of come out and say so.
Yeah, that would be a good party. Like, be a good liberal. It would be funny. It would be parody, but then people would actually take it seriously. The go woke, go woke or go home, go big or go home on the woke front. Just wondering if you ever I went to Wesleyan. Freddie, for listeners who don't know, grew up in Middletown, and I kind of used to really see things from this liberal point of view, very knee jerk. I'm very ashamed of it, I have to admit. And some of the reasons, I'm opposed to the wokeification of politics and the neoliberalism dressed in touchy-feely, like inclusivity turn or treatment of politics, whatever. But part of the reason I think I respond to it that way too is because I have this visceral response to remembering when that kind of worked on me. You are someone who, for as long as you've been public, at least you've rejected that. And did you ever feel any pressure to think that way? I mean, did you ever pick any of it up at Wesleyan, being around Wesleyan, or were you always frustrated by it?
Well, I mean, I grew up around radical people. I mean, my grandfather was a socialist professor who was blacklisted by the Broyles bills, which were Illinois state bills, looking to hunt out communists from the state university system. He was listed by name in those bills.
Not to brag.
My grandmother was a civil rights and civil liberties organizer who won the ACLU's Lifetime Achievement Award for her work. My father lived in New York during the bad old days in the mid '70s, and worked for the National Endowment of the Arts and was a director in the black box theater scene. I grew up around queer people and radicals and junkies and artists and dreamers and people like that, and there was always a profound difference between them and how they interacted with the world and how the default Wesleyan student did. Now, that wasn't any insult to the default Wesleyan student because they were 18 or 19 years old, but there's just always been a clear difference to me between those different ways of engaging with the world, and I've always had a clear sense of which was better and more likely to produce change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a similar background, and I have to say, I don't know what it was. I fell for, I don't know. I was young. Times were tough.
There's a lot of social pressure to
yes,
do so. I mean, you've seen PCU, right?
I saw it. I went to it, but yeah, PCU, which is created by Wesleyan grads, right?
One of my dad's students.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Funny. That's cool. We should do oh my God, we should totally do a, what's it called? When you watch a movie, you could talk over it.
MSC3K.
Yeah. We should do Mystery Science Theater of PCU one day. Freddie, holding you to it.
Sure.
All right, cool.
Sure, we could host it. Sure.
Yeah, let's do it. That'd be so much fun at the Brooklyn Commons. All right, well, thank you so much, Freddie, for your time. Freddie DeBoer.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
See you
Bye.
June 14th.
Yep. See you then.
Live and in person. Bye.
Yep.
All right, thanks so much, guys, for listening to the Katie Halper Show. Use the hashtag KTHalpShow. That's letter K, letter T, HALPSHOW. And I'm KT Halps on Twitter. That's letter K, letter T, HALPS. And also, don't forget to go to the facebook.com/the Katie Halper Show, and you will see pinned the pinned status takes you to a link where you can donate to WBI in exchange for tickets to that great event. Freddie DeBoer will be speaking there, so will Angela Nagel. You'll have some good stand-up and some karaoke, so it's the best thing ever, basically. Please rate and review us on iTunes. And please support us on Patreon. You go to patreon.com. That's Patreon, patreon.com. And thank you so much, Josh, for joining us.